Welcome back to another exciting episode of Cyber Defense TV. I'm your host, Gary Malewski, and the publisher of Cyber Defense Magazine. I have a very special guest today from one of my favorite security companies. His name is Bill Malik. He's the VP of Infrastructure Strategy for TrendMicro. Welcome to the Cyber Hot Seat, Bill.
Thank you, Gary. Good to be here.
So tell me, what is going on in this area of IoT? I've been hearing a lot of companies are worried it's going to get to your home. It's going to be your Nest device or your Alexa or maybe at work. Even the BYOD dilemma fits under IoT. What are you guys doing at Trend to solve this really serious problem?
Well, we have a range of solutions. The most important thing is to understand that IoT isn't really new, that the current version is actually the third generation of IoT. We look at industrial control systems dating back to the 60s and 70s. We see them using old protocols. Then in the 90s, they started using IP-based protocols and technologies. There are industrial control systems that are using OLE-based capabilities from the 1990s that are using DCOM-based capabilities. What's new about the IoT world today is that it's full-bore internet-enabled, it's full-bore TCP/IP, and these engines have an awful lot of horsepower. So they're attractive for a number of reasons. They're attractive as places to do crypto mining. They're attractive as places to launch spam or DDoS attacks. They're also attractive as repositories of information and as places through which a lateral attack can move if they're connected to an enterprise. What we can do within Trend to help lock those down is, first of all, observe the network and provide proper segmentation to see if devices are misbehaving, trying to call out to command and control service, for instance, trying to exfiltrate large amounts of data, consuming more power, more processing, more energy than they should conventionally. The fundamental issue with IoT and OT fundamentally is that
OT?
Operational technology, all of the stuff that's in industrial control systems, SCADA devices. The fundamental issue there is that those engineering marvels were built by people who are interested in safety and availability. They want to keep the lights on. They want to keep the water running. And so if something breaks, they want it to break in a manner that doesn't disrupt the availability of that service. Contrast that with information security, which is about the confidentiality and integrity and privacy of data. And you have an orthogonal conversation. You have a group of people using two different languages. So convergence is perilous. What we're looking to do within Trend is to provide an IT security-informed approach to protecting operational technologies, including things like the Nest and the Alexa, as well as self-driving cars, smart cities, intelligent ports, safe robotic operating theaters, while allowing those systems to maintain the level of safety and availability that their designers intend and require. Fail-fast is fine if you're doing, web-based applications. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work so well if you're trying to get a self-driving car out there. You really would like that system to be completely safe first.
Zero failure.
Zero failure.
I actually watched it was a Wired video where they took the Jeep, a recent Jeep, and they exploited it remotely, and the guy couldn't put the brakes on.
Right.
And luckily, it was his friend hacking it to show that this vulnerability existed, and they fixed it. But it's just like anything: patch and pray, patch and pray. I mean, I'm updating Windows every week with a new patch. This whole IoT world is going to have the same kind of problem of known and unknown vulnerabilities.
Right.
Are you going to help secure and harden these devices? Are you going to put a wrapper around them? What is Trend doing to actually give us this fail-safe environment or a more secure environment with very insecure, needing to be patched equipment?
Well, the answers to your question are yes and yes. When it comes to protecting the environment, we're able to shield the network. We're able to provide analysis and assessment of traffic going in and out. Anything inappropriate is blocked. Any inappropriate behavior emanating from the device will be blocked, and the device can be quarantined.
Is that with the wire speed solution that you guys own?
Yes.
What do we call that?
Deep network inspection. There's tipping points appliance.
Great. So you've got a whole a slew of multiple pronged approaches because you can't really solve the problem with one device or one piece of software.
I have a whole shelf full of silver bullets.
Okay,
it's got PKI in it. It's got single sign-on in it. It's got blockchain in it. All sorts of things that we're going to end, any kind of security concern forever. I've been in the business 44 years. I expect to collect a few more before I move out. But the second part is, yes, we're doing stuff inside the devices as well. Now, the newer generation of IoT are built on technologies that are much more robust than what we saw in the older industrial control systems. They've got sufficient memory. They've got a lot of processing power. They're often configured with a lot of power, energy available to them, and they have access to significant bandwidth. In a device like that, you can put a chip that actually has both the real-time operating system component that you need to run the pump, as well as a secure kernel that you can use for updating software, that you can use for encrypting data, use for multi-factor authentication. Those two things together, ARM has one, Intel has one, they provide a platform, and one of the things that we offer as Trend is a software development kit that you can embed in that technology. We're doing that today with Panasonic. We've announced this capability for their in-vehicle infotainment. So any automobile manufacturer that uses Panasonic's solution there is going to be able to protect the car and its environment. We're looking at other systems and networks of systems. The smart city is the biggest challenge of all. I was talking with a company last week in Cork. They make systems to help manage buildings. When an event happens, they rate that event on a scale. Is it low, probably high? An elevator stops, that's a high probability problem. A glass, window breaks, that's a low probability problem. Unless that building system is connected with a public safety system, and now you correlate that window breaking with the fact that there's an active shooter event going on outside, and all of a sudden that goes from being minor to red level alarm. You got to get people out of that side of the building. And that's the kind of broad-based intelligence that smart cities require. And from a security perspective, what we at Trend are striving to do constantly is to not generate false positives. We're not going to raise false alarms.
That's great to hear. And I've heard that Trend has had a patent that's probably almost 10 years old on machine learning to help you build a foundation for really intelligent analysis and review and AI, where there's all these new companies putting the two letters AI in the front of everything they do, and that now they're hiring the engineers this year.
Yeah.
And, they're green. You have been doing it for 10 years.
Actually longer, 14 years ago. In 2004, in order to deal with spam, we put machine learning algorithms in place. You'd get an email that said, use this and you'll be, more manly. Well, we would filter that traffic. And then so the spammers would get clever and they'd misspell the name of the potion. Well, so we put machine learning algorithms in place that would say, this looks like a version of that. So now we can classify this as, inappropriate pharmaceuticals. We can classify this as illicit drugs. We can classify this as inappropriate images. And we can block whole classes of things. We'll be doing that since 2004. So yeah, machine learning is very important. It's a key part of our portfolio. More recently, we just released the ability to take a look at emails. A company will give us access to analyze a few hundred emails by their CEO. We'll use machine learning algorithms. We don't take the data. We keep it on the company's site. We extract information from it and develop a set of patterns that would say, yeah, this looks like the kind of email that individual would send. So when the CFO gets a message saying, we just closed that client in Belarus, we got to ship him $500,000 right away, the CFO can then say, is this something that the CEO would actually have written? And the machine learning algorithm will say, yeah, that's not, he never uses the word whereas, or whatever the key is. Now, we expect the bad guys to do the same. They're going to take a look at video presentations of the executive. They're going to use it to develop a VR-based way to synthesize a video conference with somebody who looks an awful lot like the CEO and sounds an awful lot like the CEO. So we'll have to get smarter. It's an arms race.
It's an arms race, and TrendMicro has been one of the leaders and pretty much ahead of the curve of most of the new hot vendors in the market. And what I'd like to say, I think this is a great interview, beginning of hopefully many more together, and that our viewers absolutely have to take a look at trendmicro.com. And what I would say is, if you have any area of cybersecurity that you're concerned about, whether it's consumer endpoint, small business, large business, government, this whole area Bill talked about of IoT, Trend has been leading the market at getting ahead of breaches for a long time. And I think they'll do it for a long time to come. Thank you again, and stay tuned for another exciting episode of Cyber Defense TV.